The diesel engine rumbled, a low growl in the pre-dawn quiet. I finished my pre-trip inspection, thumping the tires with a mallet, the sound echoing off the houses lining my street. Everything looked good. Logbook, check. Manifest, check. A thermos of black coffee, check. But my gut was twisted in a knot that had nothing to do with the long haul to the coast. I walked back inside, the scent of stale coffee and something faintly sweet, like Natalie's perfume, hanging in the air. "I'm heading out," I called into the quiet house. Elias, my 8-year-old son, was at the kitchen table pushing cereal around in a bowl. He was already dressed for school, his backpack slumped against the chair. "Hey, buddy, come give me a hug." He slid off the chair and walked over, but his hug was limp, his arms barely closing around my waist. He didn't look up. "Hey," I said, crouching down to his level. "You gonna be good for your mom?" Elias just nodded, his eyes fixed on the scuffed toe of his sneaker. I tilted his chin up. His eyes were shadowed, dark circles underneath that hadn't been there a few months ago. "You okay, champ? You seem quiet." "I'm just tired," he mumbled, pulling away slightly. Natalie walked into the kitchen, tying the belt of her silk robe. "Damien, you're still here? You're going to hit traffic." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It hadn't in a long time. "Just saying goodbye to my boy," I said, standing up. As Natalie approached, Elias took an involuntary step back, shrinking until his back hit the kitchen counter. He flinched. It was tiny, a barely perceptible tightening of his shoulders, but I saw it. I saw the way his eyes darted to her, then quickly away, a flicker of pure, unadulterated fear. My blood ran cold. "Elias, what's wrong?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "Nothing," Natalie said, her voice a smooth, cool melody. She ran a hand through Elias's hair. "He's just grumpy. He didn't sleep well." "Did you, sweetie?" Elias shook his head, still not looking at either of us. I looked at Natalie, at her perfectly manicured nails, her unblemished smile. We'd been having problems, sure. The distance, my job, the silences had grown longer than the conversations. But this was different. This was my son. "I'll see you in a week then," I said, forcing the words out. I kissed Elias on the forehead. His skin was clammy. "Be good, buddy." I walked out the door, the rumble of my truck waiting. I climbed into the cab, the familiar smell of diesel and worn leather doing nothing to calm me. I pulled away from the curb, watching my house in the rearview mirror. The knot in my stomach wasn't just a hunch anymore. It was a siren. Something was very wrong. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I made it 5 miles down the interstate. 5 miles of every worst-case scenario playing on a loop in my head. The flinch, the dark circles, the way Elias shrank when his own mother walked into the room. I couldn't shake it. I'd seen scared kids before. This was terror. At the next exit, I slammed on the air brakes, pulling the rig onto the shoulder with a hiss and a jolt that shook the cab. I grabbed my phone. My schedule was tight, but this couldn't wait. I typed electronics store near me into the map. An hour later, I was walking out of a big box store with a small, high-definition nanny cam. It was expensive, boasted motion detection, night vision, and a live streaming app. The box felt heavy in my hand, heavy with what it meant, heavy with betrayal. I drove the rig back, parking it a few streets away from my house. I didn't want Natalie hearing the engine. I jogged back, my heart pounding against my ribs, feeling like a criminal. I let myself in the front door. "Natalie?" I called out. Damien?" Her voice came from the master bedroom, sharp with surprise. "What are you doing here? Did you forget something?" "Yeah," I shouted back, moving quickly down the hall to Elias's room. "Forgot my logbook. The new one. Can't roll without it." "It's on your desk," she yelled. I didn't have much time. I dashed into Elias's room. It was neat, too neat for an 8-year-old. His bed was made, toys lined up on the shelf. My eyes scanned for a spot. My gaze landed on the old teddy bear sitting on his dresser, the one I'd won for him at a carnival years ago. Barnaby, he'd named him. With trembling fingers, I tore a small seam in the bear's back, right between the shoulders. I shoved the tiny camera lens deep into the stuffing, angling it until the lens poked through the bear's plush fur, nearly invisible. I positioned Barnaby on the shelf, giving the camera a clear, unobstructed view of Elias's bed and most of the room. I pulled out my phone, connected the camera to the Wi-Fi, and saw the live feed flicker to life. A perfect, clear, sickening view of my son's empty room. "Damien, are you coming to bed?" Natalie called, her voice closer. She was coming down the hall. "Got it!" I yelled, stuffing the camera's box into my backpack. I walked out of Elias's room, pulling the door closed just as she appeared at the end of the hall. "You're acting weird," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Just stressed. This new dispatcher is a pain." I lied, brushing past her. "Gotta go. For real this time." I didn't kiss her goodbye. I jogged back to my truck, climbed into the cab, and pulled back onto the highway. The setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and blood red. My stomach was hollow. I was either a paranoid fool who had just violated his family's privacy, or I was about to confirm a truth I didn't think I could survive. The truck stop was loud, a chaotic mess of idling engines, shouting drivers, and the reek of diesel fumes. I'd been driving for 6 hours straight, my mind a blur, the app icon for the camera burning a hole in my phone screen. I couldn't wait any longer. I parked in the back row, killed the engine, and grabbed my laptop. I pulled the curtain shut, plunging the cab into darkness. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to type in the password for the camera's feed. The screen lit up. Elias's room. Dark, but the camera's night vision cut through the gloom, painting everything in shades of ghostly green. Elias was in bed, a small lump under the covers. The timestamp read 11:04 p.m. I watched. For 10 minutes, nothing happened but the slow, rhythmic breathing of my son. I started to relax. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe he was just a moody kid. Then the door creaked open. Natalie slipped into the room. She stood over the bed for a long moment, just watching him. I held my breath. She moved, not to tuck him in, but to the desk. She picked something up, a roll of silver duct tape. "No," I whispered, my voice a dry crack in the silent cab. "No, Natalie, don't." She walked back to the bed and ripped off a long strip. The sound was horribly loud in the feed. Elias woke up instantly, a muffled gasp coming from under the covers. He saw her, and his entire body went rigid. She leaned down, her back to the camera, and when she pulled away, the silver tape was gleaming across his mouth. I stopped breathing. The world narrowed to the glowing green rectangle on my screen. Elias was crying, silent, terrified tears streaming down his temples. Natalie paid no attention. She pulled the covers off him with a single violent yank. "You thought you could get away with it, didn't you?" she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper that the camera's mic picked up with perfect, terrible clarity. "Looking at your father like that, trying to make him think I'm the bad guy." Elias shook his head, his small hands balled into fists at his side. "You don't shake your head at me," she snarled. She raised her hand, and she hit him. An open-palmed slap across the face that snapped his head to the side. A sound tore out of my throat, a raw animal noise. I slammed my fist against the dashboard, the pain a distant echo to the agony ripping through my chest. She wasn't done. She grabbed his arm, yanking him up. "I told you what happens when you're a bad, disloyal boy." She hit him again, and again. She used her hand, then a belt she must have brought with her. I watched, paralyzed, choking, as my wife tortured my son. The boy on the screen wasn't flinching anymore. He was just taking it. A small, still figure enduring an agony I couldn't stop. After what felt like an eternity, she stopped. She stood over him, breathing hard. "You will learn to be strong," she whispered. "You will learn to respect me." She pulled the covers back over him, smoothed her hair, and walked out of the room, closing the door with a soft click. The feed was silent again, just the sound of my son's muffled, broken sobs. I sat in the dark cab, the laptop screen shining on my own tears. The rage was so profound, so absolute, it was a physical weight. It was cold, sharp, and pure. She wasn't just my wife anymore. She was a monster, and I was 400 miles away. I didn't black out. I whited out. The world dissolved into a piercing, white-hot rage. My laptop snapped shut with a crack. I was out of the sleeper and in the driver's seat before I'd even formed a conscious thought. The engine roared to life. I didn't check mirrors, didn't signal. I slammed the truck into gear and wrenched the wheel, the rig groaning as I cut a sharp turn out of the parking spot, the trailer's back end clipping a trash can and sending it flying. Horns blared. I ignored them. I hit the on-ramp at 60, my hands crushing the steering wheel. My cargo, $200,000 worth of electronics, was due in California in 2 days. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered but the 400 miles of asphalt between me and my son. My phone was on the dash. I stabbed at the screen, my vision blurry. I hit the contact for Kieran, Natalie's brother. He was a good man, a stark contrast to his sister. He picked up on the fourth ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Damien? What the hell? It's midnight. Are you okay?" "Kieran, listen to me. I need you to do exactly what I say. No questions." My voice was a low growl I didn't recognize. "Dee, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "I can't explain. Not now. I need you to go to my house. I need you to get Elias." "What? Now? Natalie will kill me." "I don't care," I snarled. Tell her I bought a new gaming system for Elias. A surprise. And you and Claire are supposed to take him to your place, tonight, so you can set it all up for when he wakes up. Tell her I messed up the shipping, and it's the only way. It was stupid. It was thin. But it was all I had. "Damien, that's insane. It's a school night. Can't this wait?" "No," I roared, and the force of it shocked even me. "Kieran, I am not asking. I am begging you, as a father, get my son out of that house, get him to your place, and lock the doors. Do not let Natalie near him. Do not let her take him back. I don't care what you have to say. Lie. Fight her. I don't care. Just get him out." There was a long, heavy silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing. "Oh my God," Kieran whispered. "It's Natalie, isn't it? She's hurting him." The words hit me like a physical blow. He knew. Or he suspected. The knot in my gut tightened. "Just get him, Kieran, please. I'm on my way. I'll get Claire. We'll get him. We'll be at our place. Just drive safe, D. Whatever you're doing, don't get yourself killed." The line clicked. I dropped the phone and jammed the accelerator to the floor. The speedometer needle climbed. 75, 80, 85. The truck's engine screamed, a soundtrack to the image seared into my brain. The silver tape, the raised hand, the terror in my son's eyes. Every mile marker was a lifetime. Every set of headlights a potential cop. I didn't care. I blew past the way stations, ignored the speed limits. I was a 40-ton missile aimed at one house, at one person. The phone rang again. Natalie. I looked at her picture on the screen, and a cold, murderous hatred filled my throat. I hit ignore. She called again and again and again. The screen lit up, a relentless, taunting flash in the darkness of the cab. I turned the phone off. There was nothing to say. Not until I was home. I was 2 hours out, my hands aching, my eyes burning from staring at the unbroken ribbon of highway, when my phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on, just in case. It was a text from Kieran. Got him. It was not easy, but he's here. He's safe. He's with Claire. A single breath, one I felt I'd been holding for years, shuddered out of me. The tension in my shoulders eased by a fraction. He was safe. He wasn't in that house. She bought the story? I texted back, my thumb clumsy on the screen. Barely. She was furious. Said you were undermining her? Tried to say Elias was sick and couldn't go. But I held firm. I think I scared her. She's been calling you non-stop, hasn't she? Yeah. He didn't want to come, D. Not at first. He was terrified. Not of me, of her. Of what she'd do when he got back. I had to damn near carry him to the car. Claire's got him in the guest room. He won't talk. He's just sitting there. What did she do, Damien? I couldn't type it. I couldn't form the words. Almost home. I'll show you. Don't let him out of your sight. Lock the doors. I mean it, Kieran. They're locked. Claire's with him. Hurry. I dropped the phone. The sun was just starting to tinge the eastern sky with a sick, gray light. The adrenaline that had fueled me for hours was fading, replaced by a bone-deep, crushing exhaustion and a cold, simmering dread. I'd gotten him out. But the fight was just beginning. I thought back to Kieran's text. He knew. He'd suspected. My mind flashed to family barbecues, to holidays. The times Kieran had been too quiet, watching his sister with a look I'd mistaken for annoyance. The times he'd been extra gentle with Elias, pulling him aside to play catch, away from the adults. Had everyone seen it but me? The thought was a fresh stab of guilt. I had been the one on the road, the one who left him there, the one who saw a moody kid and not a terrified victim. I pushed the truck harder. The remaining miles evaporated in a blur of self-loathing and righteous fury. I wasn't just coming home to save my son. I was coming home to atone. The truck's air brakes hissed, the sound echoing in the quiet suburban dawn. I didn't bother parking the rig properly, just left it angled across the street from Kieran's house, the engine ticking as it cooled. I tumbled out of the cab, my legs unsteady after 6 hours of non-stop driving. The front door opened before I even hit the walkway. Kieran stood in the doorway, his face a ruin. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. He's in the guest room, he said, his voice a low rasp. Claire's with him. He scrubbed a hand over his face. She's not good, D. I pushed past him into the house. Claire was in the kitchen, leaning over the sink, her back shaking with silent sobs. Claire. She turned, her face streaked with tears and puffy. "Oh God, Damien," she whispered, and her voice broke. "Oh God, his back." She stepped aside. On the kitchen counter was a small, damp towel and Elias's pajama shirt. "What?" I asked, my blood turning to ice. He spilled some cocoa. I told him it was fine. We'd get him a new shirt. I lifted his shirt off to change him." She choked on a sob. "Damien, I wasn't prepared." My feet felt like lead as I walked down the hall. The guest room door was ajar. I pushed it open. Elias was sitting on the bed, wearing one of Kieran's old t-shirts that hung on him like a tent. He was holding a mug of cocoa, his hands shaking. When he saw me, his eyes went wide, a flash of joy so pure it shattered me. "Dad!" He dropped the mug, cocoa splashing on the blankets, and launched himself at me. He flew into my arms, and I crushed him against my chest, burying my face in his hair, drinking in the smell of him. "I got you, buddy," I whispered, my voice thick. "I got you. Dad's here." He was sobbing, deep, gulping cries he'd clearly been holding back all night. "She's mad," he whimpered into my shirt. "She's going to be so mad." "Shh. No, she can't be mad. You're with me. You're safe," I said, pulling back to look at him. His face was pale, the dark circles stark. "Elias, Claire said you spilled your drink. Are you okay?" "I'm sorry," he whispered, fresh tears welling. "I'm so sorry, Dad." No, don't be sorry." I gently turned him around. "I just need to see if you're hurt." "I'm okay." "Just let me look, buddy." I lifted the back of the oversized t-shirt, and I forgot how to breathe. His small back was a grotesque canvas of bruises, yellowing, green-tinged ones from days, maybe weeks ago. Angry, purple-black welts that were horrifyingly new, and crisscrossing them all, the thin, raised lines of a belt. It wasn't just a few hits. It was a pattern. It was systematic. It was torture. The video had been horrifying. This physical proof, this map of his suffering written on his own skin, it was a declaration of war. I gently lowered the shirt, my hands shaking with a rage so profound I was afraid I would be sick. I hugged him again, my grip iron. "It's okay," I whispered, rocking him. "It's all over now. I promise you, Elias. I promise you." I held him until his sobs quieted, his small body going limp with exhaustion in my arms. I laid him down on the bed, pulled the covers up, and sat next to him, stroking his hair until his breathing evened out, and he finally fell into a fitful sleep. Then I stood up, walked out of the room, and quietly closed the door. Kieran and Claire were in the living room, waiting. Their faces were pale. "I'm going to kill her," I said, my voice flat, dead. "No, you're not," Kieran said, stepping in front of me. "You're not. You're going to sit down, and you're going to show me. You're going to show me what you saw." I collapsed onto their sofa, the adrenaline finally crashing, leaving me hollow. Claire sat in the armchair opposite, her arms wrapped around herself, her eyes red. Kieran stood, a sentry in his own living room, his jaw so tight I thought it might crack. She's been hurting him for a long time," I said, the words tasting like ash. "His back. I just saw his back." "We know," Claire whispered. "We saw." "You don't understand," I said, pulling out my phone. The screen was cracked from where I'd hit it in the truck. I didn't just suspect. I saw her. I fumbled with the app, my thumb slick with sweat. I put a camera in his room before I left. Kieran's head snapped up. You what? I had to know. I opened the app. The feed was live, showing Elias's empty, sunlit room. I swiped to the recorded clips. There it was. Night event, 11:04 p.m. You need to see this, I said. You both do. You need to know I'm not crazy. I hit play. The living room was silent, filled only by the sounds from my phone's tiny speaker. The creak of the door, Natalie's venomous whispers, the horrifying sharp rip of the duct tape. Claire let out a strangled sob and buried her face in her hands. Then came the sound of the first slap. Kieran, who had been standing rigid, lunged forward and snatched the phone from my hand. He held it, his arm shaking, his face inches from the screen, watching. He watched the entire grotesque 2-minute clip. He watched his sister tape my son's mouth shut. He watched her hit him over and over. He watched her use the belt. When the video ended, looping back to the start, he didn't move. He just stared at the screen, his face white, his knuckles a matching shade as he gripped my phone. This is... He tried to speak, but his voice failed. He cleared his throat. This is from last night. Yes, I said. While I was sleeping in my bed, 20 minutes away. Yes. He slowly looked up from the phone, and the expression in his eyes was one I'd never seen. It wasn't just anger. It was a profound, bottomless disgust. A man watching his entire world realign. She's not my sister, he whispered. Not anymore. That is a monster. Claire was weeping openly now. Kieran, our family, Mom, I don't care. Kieran snarled, his voice vibrating with a controlled fury. I don't care. Look at what she did. He handed the phone back to me, his hand trembling. What are you going to do? I'm going to the police, right now. I'm taking this. I held up the phone, and I'm taking the pictures of his back that I'm about to take. And I am going to end this. I'm going to have her arrested. Today. Okay, Kieran said, nodding, his face set like stone. Okay. Claire and I are with you. 100%. Elias stays here. We'll keep him safe. You go. You go and you burn her to the ground. I stood up, my legs feeling steadier. The guilt was still there, but the rage was a fire, and the video was the fuel. I had her. She was done. I'm going now, I said. Lock this door behind me. Don't answer it. Not for anyone. Especially not for her. Go, Kieran said. We've got him. I walked out the front door, the sun hitting my face. It felt obscene. The world so bright and normal when I had just witnessed such darkness. I got in my pickup, which I'd left parked behind the rig, and headed for the precinct. I parked in the visitor spot at the police precinct, the phone feeling like a lead weight in my hand. This was it. This was the moment it all ended. I sat there for a second, my hand on the door handle, taking a deep breath. I imagined the look on Natalie's face when the cops showed up. The satisfaction was so potent it was almost dizzying. I opened the truck door. As I did, my phone, still clutched in my hand, vibrated. A notification lit up the screen. Device wipe initiated. My blood froze. I stared at the words, not comprehending. Your device is being remotely erased by the account owner. If you did not initiate this, contact your administrator. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I frantically tried to stop it, swiping, tapping the screen, but it was too late. The screen went black, then lit up with the phone's boot-up logo. A progress bar appeared. Erasing! Natalie! I roared, slamming my fist on the steering wheel. She must have been watching, waiting, She'd been calling Kieran, and he'd been ignoring her. She'd been calling me. She must have known I was home, known I'd taken Elias. She knew I had my phone. And in a single, cold, calculated move, she had reported it stolen. She had wiped it. She'd wiped everything. The video, the audio, my only proof. I watched, helpless and sick, as the progress bar filled. The phone, my silver bullet, my undeniable proof, was factory resetting itself. By the time I walked into that precinct, it would be a clean slate, a useless brick. The rage I felt before was nothing compared to this. This was a new, cold, terrifying fury. She wasn't just a monster. She was smart. She was manipulative. And she had just crippled my case. The phone rebooted, the welcome screen glowing cheerfully. I sat there, the truck's engine ticking. The video was gone. The audio was gone. All I had left was my word and the bruises on my son's back. I thought about turning around, going back to Kieran's. But what would I do? Wait for her to hit him again? I couldn't. I had to go in. I had to make them believe me. I grabbed the door handle, my hand shaking. The game had just changed. She had just raised the stakes, and I was walking in with an empty hand. I walked into the precinct, the smell of disinfectant and stale coffee hitting me. The officer at the front desk looked up, bored. "Help you?" "I need to report child abuse," I said, my voice coming out as a hoarse croak. His boredom vanished. He pointed to a bench. "Wait here. I'll get a detective." Minutes later, a woman in a plain suit with tired eyes walked out. "Detective Miller, you're reporting abuse?" I followed her to a small, windowless interview room. "It's my wife," I started, and the whole story came pouring out. The flinch, the nanny cam, the drive home, the video, the duct tape, the belt, the bruises. She listened, her face impassive, taking notes. "And you have this video?" she asked when I finally stopped, my chest heaving. This was the moment. She just wiped my phone, remotely, as I was pulling into the parking lot. "It's gone. The video is gone." The detective's expression tightened. It was a subtle shift, but I saw it. The flicker of skepticism. The professional mask settling back into place. "Mr. What's your name?" "Damien. Damien Thurmond. My son is Elias. My wife is Natalie Thurmond." "Mr. Thurmond, you're telling me you had a video of your wife committing a felony, and she, what, guessed you were here and remotely deleted it?" "Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. She knew I'd taken Elias. She knew I was home. She's smart. She's manipulative. She did it to protect herself." "I see." She tapped her pen on her notepad. "So, as of right now, you have no video." "No," I admitted, the word tearing at me. "But I have my son. He's at his uncle's house. His back. God, his back is covered in bruises, old ones, new ones, from a belt. You can send an officer, you can send a doctor, you can see for yourself, that's proof." Detective Miller sighed, leaning forward. "Mr. Thurmond, I hear the panic in your voice. And we take allegations like this very seriously. Bruises are evidence, yes. But in a he said, she said custody dispute, this is not a custody dispute." I slammed my hand on the table, making her jump. "This is my wife torturing my son." "I understand your anger," she said, her voice firm. "And we will follow up. But without that video, your wife will say you did it. She'll say you're an angry, absent husband trying to take her son, and it will be your word against hers." I deflated, the rage vanishing, leaving only a cold, sickening dread. She was right. Natalie would absolutely do that. She would burn me to the ground to save herself. "So what can you do?" I whispered. We can and will petition for an emergency protective order based on your testimony and the physical evidence on the child. A child services worker and an officer will go to your brother-in-law's house to photograph the injuries and take Elias's statement. If the judge grants the order, your wife will be served and will not be allowed near you or your son. And arresting her? With what I have right now? She shook her head. He said, she said, and some bruises she will claim are from discipline or accidents. The DA won't touch it. Not yet. We need more than he said. We need something undeniable. I left the precinct with a piece of paper, a case number, a hollow promise. I had failed. The video was my silver bullet, and I had let her destroy it. I got back in my truck and just sat there, my head in my hands. What now? I had no proof. It was my word against the perfect mother everyone knew. She was going to win. She was going to get my son back. I was halfway back to Kieran's, my mind a blank, gray fog of defeat. How could I have been so stupid? I should have backed up the video, emailed it, uploaded it to the cloud. But I had been so blinded by rage, so focused on just getting home, I hadn't thought. My phone, now a useless new device, rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello? Is this Damien? The voice was older, female, and shaking. Who is this? It's Martha, Natalie's mother. My blood pressure spiked. What do you want? I snarled. Calling to defend your monster of a daughter? No, she said, and her voice broke into a sob. Oh God, no. Damien, I think she's sick. She's really sick. I pulled the truck over, my heart pounding. What are you talking about, Martha? She called me, Martha wept. Not 10 minutes ago. She was frantic, hysterical, said you'd taken Elias, said you were accusing her of things. She was trying to get me to lie for her, Damien, to say I was with her last night, to say she's a good mother, that she'd never... She took a shaky breath. But I've known. I've suspected it for months. The way he flinches around her. The way she talks about discipline. That coldness in her. I've been afraid to say anything. She's my daughter. But when she called me today... What did she say, Martha? I asked, my voice urgent. She admitted it. She didn't mean to, but she was so angry. She said, he's my son. If I need to use a belt to make him strong, that's my right. That's what the Bible teaches. And then she said, he needs a stronger hand than you ever gave me. Oh God, Damien. I was gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing. This was it. Martha, I said, my voice low and steady. I need your help. Natalie wiped my phone. I had a video of her doing it. It's gone. The police. They believe me, but they don't have enough. It's my word against hers. She wiped your phone. Martha sounded horrified. That's calculated. I need proof, Martha. Anything. Does she text you this stuff? Did you record the call? No, she said, her voice small. But she's left me voicemails, ranting, for weeks. About Elias being disobedient. About how you undermine her. I saved them. I don't even know why. They scared me. My heart hammered. Voicemails? You have them right now? Yes, on my phone. 3 of them. 1 from last week. She was furious you'd bought him a new video game. She said he didn't deserve it and that she'd be doubling the punishments while you were gone. Martha, you are saving my son's life. Can you send me those files? Can you... God, Martha, can you testify?" There was a long, agonizing silence. I could hear her ragged breathing. She was being asked to choose between her daughter and her grandson. "She is not the girl I raised," Martha said, her voice hardening with a sudden steel resolve. "What she is doing, that is not my daughter. That is an abomination. Yes, I will send you the files. And I will stand up in any court in this land, and I will tell them exactly what she is." "Thank you," I whispered, the relief so profound it made me dizzy. "Martha, thank you." "Save him, Damien," she said, her voice breaking again. "Save my grandson." She hung up. A minute later, my phone buzzed. 3 new audio files. I didn't have my video, but I had the next best thing. I had Natalie, in her own words, confessing. I put the truck in gear and headed back to Kieran's. The fight wasn't over. It had just been rearmed. When I got back to Kieran's, the house was quiet. A police cruiser was parked out front. My heart leapt into my throat, but then Kieran opened the door. "They just left," he said, his face grim. "Detective Miller sent them. A child services worker, too. They took pictures of Elias's back. They took his statement." "How was he?" I asked, pushing past him. "He was terrified," Claire said, walking out of the kitchen, her eyes red. "He kept asking if he was in trouble, if his mom was coming. The social worker was good with him, but God, Damien." Listening to him describe, he just shut down. Elias was in the living room, curled up on the sofa, watching cartoons with the sound off. He looked small, lost. He saw me and his face lit up. "Dad." I went and sat next to him, pulling him into a one-armed hug. "Hey, buddy, you okay? Some people came to talk to you?" He nodded, burrowing into my side. They asked about Mom." His voice was a tiny whisper. "They took pictures of my back." "I know, champ. I know that was scary." He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a fear that shattered my heart. "Are you mad at me?" "What?" I recoiled. "Mad at you?" "Elias, no. Why would I be mad at you?" Mom said if I ever told anyone you'd be mad. She said you'd send me away. That you'd believe her, not me." I couldn't hold it back. A tear slipped down my cheek and I wiped it away, furious. "Elias, look at me." I turned him to face me, holding his small shoulders. Your mom was wrong. She lied to you. You are not in trouble. You did nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing." He just stared at me, his lip trembling. "I need to talk to you about something important," I said, my voice gentle. "I know what's been happening. When I'm not home, I know what she was doing to you. At night." His entire body tensed. The panic was immediate, his eyes darting to the door as if he expected her to burst in. "Dad, no, she'll be so mad, you know. She said she'd hurt me worse. She said—" "Hey, shh, I said, pulling him close. "It's okay. You're safe. You didn't tell me. She can't be mad at you. I found out on my own." "How?" he whispered, his face buried in my shirt. I put a camera in your room, buddy. In Barnaby, I saw it. I saw what she did last night." He pulled back, his face a mask of confusion. You saw?" "I saw, Elias. I saw the tape. I saw her hit you. I saw everything." He lowered his head, a flush of what looked like shame creeping up his neck. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry I was bad." Those words broke me. My son apologizing for being abused. "No," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I held his face in my hands, forcing him to look at me. "Elias, listen to me. You were never bad. Never. What Mom did to you, that was wrong. Very, very wrong. No adult is ever, ever allowed to hurt a child like that. Not even a parent. Do you understand me? He nodded slowly, a single tear rolling down his cheek. She said it was to make me strong. That's not strength, Elias. That is cruelty. How long? I whispered, my voice breaking. How long has this been going on? He hesitated, biting his lip. Since you started the longer trips, the ones to the coast. A long time. Almost a year. A year. The word punched the air from my lungs. A year. I had been on the road, listening to music, complaining about traffic, while my son was living in a private hell. A year of nights. A year of terror. And when I was home, I choked out. Not as much, he whispered. Sometimes. When you were asleep, she'd wait. She was scared you'd wake up. It was faster. All the times I'd woken up to her creeping back into bed, claiming she'd gone for water. All the mornings Elias was pale, quiet, and with those dark circles I'd chalked up to growing pains. How had I been so blind? Dad? He whispered, his small hand on my arm. I'm here, buddy. I pulled him back into my arms, holding him as if I could physically absorb his pain. It's over now, I promise you. You will never be alone with her again. It's over. He clung to me, his small hands gripping my shirt as if it were a life raft. And in that moment, I knew it was. We were in the kitchen, Claire having just coaxed Elias into eating some toast, when we heard it. A car door slamming, followed by furious pounding on the front door. Kieran, I know you're in there. Open this door, Natalie. Elias dropped his toast and scrambled off his chair, his face white with terror. He ran to me, grabbing my legs. Dad, she's here. Don't let her take me, please. I won't, I said, my voice a low growl. I scooped him up. Claire, take him to the back room. Now. Claire nodded, grabbing his hand. Come on, sweetie. Let's go read a story. Your dad and Uncle Kieran will handle this. Kieran! Damien! You can't do this! He is my son! The pounding was shaking the door in its frame. Kieran looked at me, his face grim. Stay with him. I'll handle my sister. No, I said, setting Elias down. We handle her together. I followed Kieran to the foyer. He unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. Natalie stood on the porch, her face a mask of rage. Her hair was a mess, her eyes wild. This wasn't the calm, collected woman from the video. This was a cornered animal. Where is he? She shrieked. Where is my son? He's not here for you, Natalie, Kieran said, his voice cold, his body blocking the doorway. How dare you? She spat. You, my own brother, siding with him? She pointed a trembling finger at me. He's lying. He's a vindictive, absent father, and he's turning you against me. He's stealing my son. I saw his back, Natalie, Kieran said, his voice dangerously quiet. Natalie froze. The color drained from her face. Claire saw his back, Kieran continued, stepping onto the porch so he was face to face with her. I saw the bruises, the welts, the pattern. You did that. To my nephew. To your own child. That's discipline, she shrieked, finding her voice again. It's discipline. He's a difficult child. You don't know what it's like. I'm his mother. It's my right. It's assault, Natalie, I said, stepping up beside Kieran. She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. You did this. You set me up. You can't prove anything. I don't need to, I said. The police have been here. They've seen him. They've taken his statement. They… what? She looked from me to Kieran, panic flashing in her eyes. You called the police? On me, I… Just then, a police cruiser rolled up to the curb, the same one from earlier. An officer got out, holding a sheaf of papers. Natalie Thurmond? The officer asked, his voice all business. Natalie stared at him, mute. I'm here to serve you with an emergency protective order. You are to have no contact with your son, Elias Thurmond, or your husband, Damien Thurmond. You are to remain 500 yards away from them, this residence, and Elias's school. Do you understand? Natalie's face crumpled. The rage dissolved, replaced by a cold, calculating fury. You can't, she whispered. This is a mistake. He's my son. It's not a mistake, the officer said, handing her the papers. You'll have a chance to contest this in court. For now, you need to leave the premises. Natalie snatched the papers, her eyes locking on me. The hatred in that look was so pure, it was almost visible. You will not get away with this, Damien, she hissed. You think you're so smart. You think you've won. You have no idea what's coming for you. I will destroy you. I will prove you're an unfit, absent liar, and I will get my son back. Get off my property, Natalie, Kieran said, his voice flat. She stared at her brother, her own blood, as if he were a stranger. Then she laughed, a short, ugly sound. You too, Kieran. Mom will be so disappointed in you. She turned, stalked back to her car, and sped away, her tires squealing. The officer tipped his hat. She violates that order, even a text message. You call us immediately, day or night. We will, I said. He got back in his car and drove off. Kieran and I stood on the porch, the silence heavy. Well, Kieran said, letting out a long, shaky breath. That's that. No, I said, watching the car disappear around the corner. That's just the beginning. We retreated into the house, the silence Natalie left behind feeling loud and heavy. Kieran locked the deadbolt, the sound echoing the finality of the act. She's not wrong, I said, rubbing my temples. She's going to fight, and she's going to fight dirty. Let her, Kieran said, his voice hard. We have the truth. We have Elias. Claire came out from the back room, her face pale. Is she gone? She's gone, I said. For now. Elias? He's okay, Claire said, wringing her hands. He heard her yelling. He's hiding in the closet. He won't come out. My heart broke all over again. I walked down the hall and opened the guest room door. Elias, buddy? It's Dad. I heard a small sniffle from the closet. I opened the door. He was huddled in the back, behind the hanging clothes, his knees drawn to his chest. She's gone, champ, I said softly, crouching down. She's gone. The police made her leave. She can't come back. She can't hurt you. Promise, he whispered, his voice tiny. I promise. On my life. You are safe here. He slowly uncurled and crept out, grabbing onto my shirt. I picked him up and carried him back to the living room. Okay, I said, sitting on the sofa with Elias on my lap. We need a plan. She's going to get a lawyer. She's going to lie. I need a lawyer, a good one, the best one. I know someone, Kieran said immediately. A guy from my firm. He's not in family law, but he knows the sharks. He'll get you the right person. Good. I nodded, my mind racing. And Elias? He needs to talk to someone, a professional, someone who knows how to handle this. Dr. Reynolds, Claire said, her voice finding some strength. My friend's daughter. She went through something. Dr. Reynolds, She's a child trauma specialist. I'll call first thing in the morning." "Thank you, Claire," I said, my voice thick. "Both of you, I don't know what I would have done." "This is what family does, Dee," Kieran said, clapping me on the shoulder. "We protect our own, and Elias is our own." "She's my sister," he added, his voice dropping. "And I will stand in that courtroom, and I will testify against her. So will Claire, and so will my mother." My head snapped up. "Martha?" "She called me," Kieran said, a grim look on his face. "After she talked to you. She was destroyed. She told me about the voicemails. She told me Natalie tried to get her to lie. She's in, all the way." A small, fragile tendril of hope began to curl in my chest. It wasn't just my word anymore. It was me, Kieran, Claire, and Martha, and the audio files. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "Okay, we can do this." Elias, who had been listening to all of this, his head on my chest, looked up. We're not going home? To our house?" "No, buddy," I said, stroking his hair. "We're going to stay here with Uncle Kieran and Aunt Claire for a little while. And then Dad's going to find us a new place. A new home. Just for us. Would you like that?" He thought about it for a moment. Just you and me? Just you and me." He nodded, a small, slow, hesitant nod. "Okay, Dad. Okay." We stayed there at Kieran and Claire's for the next 2 weeks. That house became our fortress. My lawyer, a shark named Harrison, filed for temporary exclusive custody, armed with the police report, the social worker's report, Martha's audio files, and sworn affidavits from Kieran and Claire. Elias had his first session with Dr. Reynolds. He was silent for most of it, but when he came out, he was clutching a small drawing he'd made. A picture of a small boy and a big man standing in front of a house, holding hands. Underneath, he'd written, "Safe." I framed it. The temporary custody hearing was a blur. It was held in a small, sterile courtroom that smelled like old paper. I sat at one table with Harrison. Natalie sat at another, across the aisle with a slick-looking lawyer in a suit that cost more than my truck's engine. She wouldn't look at me. She stared straight ahead, the picture of a wronged, grieving mother. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named O'Malley, read the reports in silence. She read the police report. She read the child services report, which detailed the bruises on Elias's back. She read the affidavits from Kieran and Claire. Then, she put on a set of headphones. Her expression, already grim, darkened. She was listening to Martha's voicemails. She listened to all three, her eyes never leaving Natalie. Natalie's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client adamantly denies these fantastical allegations. The bruises are the result of normal childhood play and fatherly discipline, administered by Mr. Thurmond himself, who has a history of anger." I shot out of my chair. "That's a lie." "Mr. Thurmond!" Harrison barked, pulling me back down. "This is a classic case," Natalie's lawyer continued smoothly, "of a long-haul trucker, an absent father, who feels guilty for his neglect and is now attempting to poison his son against a loving, dedicated mother." "A loving, dedicated mother," Judge O'Malley repeated, her voice dripping with ice. She took off the headphones. "A mother who, in these voicemails, talks about doubling punishments and using a stronger hand because her son was disobedient?" Natalie's lawyer faltered. "Your Honor, those tapes are out of context." "They seem perfectly in context to me," the judge snapped. Especially when read alongside a social worker's report, detailing patterned bruising consistent with a belt and open-hand strikes. This court is granting Mr. Thurman's petition for temporary exclusive custody, effective immediately. The emergency protective order is upheld. Ms. Thurmond, your visitation rights are hereby suspended, pending a full psychiatric evaluation at your own expense. We will reconvene for a permanent custody hearing in 6 weeks. Your Honor, Natalie's lawyer protested. My client. Are you hard of hearing, counsel? The judge barked. Get your client evaluated. Next case. I walked out of the courtroom, my legs shaking. I had him. For now, I had him. Natalie stormed out moments later, her lawyer trailing her. She saw me in the hall and her face twisted into a mask of pure venom. You think you've won? She hissed, her voice low and dangerous. This is a temporary setback. You've poisoned my family against me. You've turned my son against me. You haven't won anything, Damien. You've just started a war you have no idea how to fight. I am his mother. And judges don't take children away from their mothers. She stalked off, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. Harrison clapped me on the back. Good first round. But she's right about one thing. I looked at him. This is just the start, he said, his face serious. She's going to come at you with everything she has. We need to be ready. Natalie's lawyer was as good as his suit. Within a week, the counteroffensive began. We were served with a mountain of paperwork, a motion to revoke the protective order, a motion to have Elias's testimony thrown out as coached, and most terrifyingly, a petition for her to be granted sole custody. The core of her argument was simple, brutal, and effective. I was an absent father. Her petition was a masterpiece of fiction. It painted me as a man who cared more about his truck than his family. It was supported by affidavits from neighbors. Natalie is a wonderful mother, one read. She's at every PTA meeting. She's the team mom for soccer. I've never seen her raise her voice. Damien, I wouldn't know him if I saw him. He's never around. There were statements from Elias's teachers. Ms. Thurmond is our most involved parent. She volunteers for everything. Mr. Thurmond has never attended a single parent-teacher conference. It was all true. I wasn't at the PTA meetings. I hadn't been to the conferences. I was on the road, 3,000 miles away, earning the money that paid for the house she lived in, the car she drove, the belt she used to beat my son. I sat at Kieran's kitchen table, the stack of papers in front of me, my head in my hands. She's burying me, Harrison. How do we fight this? They're all true. They're true, but they're not the whole truth, Harrison said, pacing the kitchen. She's building a narrative. Perfect mom versus an absent dad. Our narrative has to be stronger. Protecting father versus abusive attacker. Right now, her narrative is hitting hard because it's public. Yours is hidden. So what do? We change the facts. Right now, you are an absent father. Your job, it's a liability. A massive one. She's going to argue that even if you get custody, you'll be on the road, and Elias will be with a babysitter. Or worse, you'll get back together with her. The judge will see you as an unstable, intermittent presence. What are you saying? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Quit my job? I'm saying, Harrison said, stopping his pacing, that you need to prove to that judge that you are not the man in those papers. You need to prove that you are willing to do anything to be Elias's full-time, stable, present parent. Their argument is that you're a trucker. We need to make it so you're not. I looked out the window. My rig was still parked down the street, a massive, gleaming monument to the life I had known, the life that had paid my bills, the life that had cost me my son. It wasn't a choice. It was a necessity. "Okay," I said, my voice quiet. "Okay, I'll do it." The next morning, I drove my rig to the depot. I walked into my boss's office, a man I'd worked for 12 years. "Damien," he said, looking up from his computer. What's going on? You abandoned a load in Flagstaff. Your dispatcher's been losing his mind. I've been covering for you, but what's happening?" "I have to quit, Don," I said, the words feeling foreign. Don leaned back, his chair groaning. "Quit? You're my best driver. You're not quitting. What is this? You want more money? A better route?" "No," I said. "I'm quitting the long haul. My family situation has changed. Drastically. I need to be home. Every night." I didn't plan to tell him. But looking at his confused face, I had to. So I did. I told him everything. About Elias, about Natalie, about the court case. When I finished, Don was silent, his face pale. "My God, Damien," he whispered. I had no idea." "I need to be home," I repeated. "I'm fighting for custody of my son, and I can't do that from 3,000 miles away. So I'm resigning." Don held up a hand. Don't resign." He turned to his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "You're my best driver, but you're also one of the smartest logistics guys I know. You know the routes, the software, the manifests better than I do." He spun the monitor around. It was a job posting. "Logistics manager, local, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. The pay, it's a huge cut, Damien. It's half what you make on the road." I looked at the salary. It was survivable. Barely. It meant selling my truck. It meant a tiny apartment, not a house. It meant clipping coupons. "I'll take it," I said, without a second's hesitation. "It's yours," Don said, closing the file. "Go home to your son, Damien. We'll handle the paperwork, and anything you need. A letter for the judge, a testimony about your character. You just ask." I walked out of that office feeling 10 pounds lighter. I had given up my career, my identity. I had cut my income in half. But as I drove back to Kieran's, for the first time in a year, I didn't feel like an absent father. I felt like a dad. When I told Harrison, he smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Good," he said. "That's very good. Now we document everything. I want you to find an apartment, close to Kieran's. I want you to enroll Elias in the school nearby. I want you to be at every therapy appointment. We aren't just telling the judge you're a good father. We're going to show her." The next few weeks were a blur. We moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment. It was bare, furnished with hand-me-downs from Kieran and Claire. But it was ours. I started the new job. The office was suffocating, the fluorescent lights giving me a headache. But at 5:01 p.m., I clocked out. I picked Elias up from Dr. Reynolds' office. We went home. I made dinner. We did homework. It was a new, strange, quiet life. And it was the happiest I had ever been. Elias was slowly uncurling. That was the only word for it. The boy who had been a tight, silent knot of fear was slowly starting to relax, to straighten out. Dr. Reynolds was a godsend. She was patient, kind, and had a way of getting him to talk about things he couldn't say to me. He still had nightmares. He'd wake up screaming, thrashing, his eyes wide with a terror that wasn't in the room. I'd have to hold him, rocking him, whispering, you're safe, Dad's here," until his breathing slowed and he'd fall back asleep, his hand gripping my shirt. After one particularly bad week, Dr. Reynolds asked to see me alone after a session. He's making progress, Damien, she said, her office calm and quiet. He feels safe with you. That's the most important thing. But I need you to understand the depth of this. This wasn't just spanking. This was systematic psychological torture. I just nodded, my stomach clenching. She used religion, Dr. Reynolds said, her eyes full of a sad anger. She told him it was biblical discipline, that she was saving his soul, that the pain was for his own good. She's not just warped his sense of safety, Damien. She's warped his sense of right and wrong. He still, on some level, believes he deserved it. I felt sick. She was never religious. Not with me. It was all for show. It's a common tool for abusers, she said. It provides a divine justification. It makes the victim feel complicit in their own abuse. It's why he was so ashamed. Why he apologized to you. She steepled her fingers. Harrison called me. The final hearing is next week. Natalie's lawyer is subpoenaing me. What? What does that mean? It means they're desperate. They're going to try to paint me as a hired gun, as biased. But it also means I get to submit my official report to the court as evidence. She handed me a thick, bound document. This is my report. It details my sessions with Elias, his PTSD diagnosis, his night terrors, and it details the justifications he said his mother used. She paused. My professional recommendation, stated on the last page, is that any contact with his mother would be catastrophic to his recovery. I am recommending 0 visitation, not even supervised, until she has undergone a minimum of 2 years of intensive court-mandated psychiatric treatment, and even then, only if Elias himself wishes it. I read the last page, the words blurring through my tears. It's the truth, she said, and it's what he needs. She is a danger to him. The court needs to know that. Her lawyer can attack me all he wants. The facts are the facts. I walked out of her office clutching that report like it was a holy text. It was a shield. It was a sword. It was the expert voice that would drown out all of Natalie's lies. The day of the final hearing, the courtroom was packed. Natalie had brought an army, neighbors, people from her church, PTA moms. They filled the benches behind her, a whispering, supportive choir. I had Kieran, Claire, and Martha. Natalie's lawyer was a shark. He spent an hour trying to dismantle my life. He brought up my trucking logs. Mr. Thurmond, is it true you were home only 48 days last year? Yes, I said. I was working to support my family. A family you're now trying to tear apart? You quit that job, didn't you? Took a position for half the pay? How convenient. I took a job, I said, my voice steady, locking eyes with the judge. That allows me to be home every night to put my son to bed. I'd take a job for a quarter of the pay if it meant keeping him safe. He moved on to Dr. Reynolds. He was brutal. Dr. Reynolds, you're being paid by Mr. Thurmond, aren't you? I am being paid for my professional services, yes, she replied, unruffled. And you're recommending no contact. Isn't that extreme? Isn't it true that children need their mothers? Children need to be safe, Dr. Reynolds said, her voice like steel. And Elias Thurmond is not safe with his mother. He has PTSD. He has night terrors. He has been psychologically and physically abused. What he needs is stability and protection. His mother offers neither. Then Harrison called Martha. Natalie's mother walked to the stand, her face pale but resolute. She did not look at her daughter. Mrs. Collins, Harrison said gently, do you recognize the voice in these audio files? I do, Martha whispered. Whose voice is it? It's my daughter, Natalie. And what is she discussing in these rants? She's talking about Elias, about, about punishing him, using a stronger hand, using a belt. Natalie's lawyer shot up. Objection! Hearsay! This is a disgruntled grandmother. It's a material witness, counsel. Sit down, the judge snapped. Mom, Natalie cried out from her table the first time she'd spoken. Mom, don't do this. He's lying. I'm not lying, Natalie, Martha said, finally turning to her daughter, tears streaming down her face. I heard you. You told me yourself you were making him strong. You are sick, and you hurt that little boy. The courtroom exploded. The judge slammed her gavel. Order! It was over after that. The judge called a recess, and when she returned, her face was carved from granite. I have heard the testimony, she said, her voice filling the silent room. I have reviewed Dr. Reynolds' expert report. I have heard Ms. Thurman's own voice on audio files threatening punishment for her son. And I have reviewed the motion from Ms. Thurman, which paints a picture of a perfect mother being railroaded. She looked directly at Natalie. Ms. Thurman, the evidence to the contrary is not just compelling, it is overwhelming. The idea that this court would return a child to a home where he was systematically beaten, terrorized, and psychologically abused. Offensive. Your petition is denied. Mr. Thurmond is granted sole, permanent, and exclusive legal and physical custody of the minor child, Elias Thurmond. Ms. Thurman's parental rights are hereby terminated. A strangled gasp came from Natalie. Terminated? Her lawyer stammered. Your Honor, we were expecting supervised visitation. Termination is a severe step, the judge said, her voice cold. It is a step I reserve for the most severe cases. This is one. Ms. Thurman did not discipline her child. She tortured him. She has shown no remorse, only aggression and manipulation. She is a danger. The protective order is made permanent. Ms. Thurmond, you will never contact this child again. We are done here. The gavel cracked. I sat there, stunned. It was over. Terminated. Natalie was just gone. A non-entity. Kieran put his hand on my shoulder. I looked back at Martha, who was weeping silently. I walked back to her, and for the first time, I hugged my mother-in-law. Thank you, I whispered. Take care of my boy, she sobbed. I walked out of the courtroom, past Natalie, who was sitting frozen, her face a blank mask of shock. I walked out into the sunlight, my legs shaking, and took my first clean breath in a year. I was going home, to my son. 2 years. That's how long it's been since I walked out of that courtroom. 2 years since the name Natalie was spoken in our home. Our home. It's not the tiny apartment anymore. It's a small 2-bedroom house with a yard. It's nothing fancy. The mortgage is tight, but we make it work. We planted a vegetable garden last spring. Elias, who is 10 now, is in charge of the tomatoes. I'm still at the same logistics job, still 9 to 5. The fluorescent lights still give me a headache, but the pay is a little better. I'm home every night. I've never missed a parent-teacher conference. Elias, he's a different kid. He's tall for his age, he's loud, he's funny. He's joined the local soccer team, the Stingers. He's not the best player, but he's the fastest. The nightmares, they're almost gone. They happen sometimes, maybe once every few months. A bad dream, a shadow in his room. But he doesn't wake up screaming anymore. He just pads into my room, climbs into my bed, and falls back asleep. Dr. Reynolds, We still see her, but only once a week. She calls him a textbook case for resilience. He's learned to talk about it. He's learned to put words to the fear. He knows, deep in his bones, that what happened was not his fault. The scars on his back have faded. They're just thin, white lines now, barely visible. But I know they're there. The scars inside. Those are fading too. Slower, but they're fading. Kieran and Claire are a constant in our lives. They're at every soccer game. Claire is the designated team aunt, always showing up with orange slices and juice boxes. Kieran is teaching Elias how to woodwork in his garage. Martha, that's been harder. She sees Elias, but it's supervised. By me. Not by a court, but by my choice. She loves him, and he loves her. But she is a living reminder of Natalie. She's in treatment herself, dealing with the guilt and the grief of what her daughter became. As for Natalie, the justice system, for once, worked. After the custody hearing, the DA, armed with the judge's ruling and Dr. Reynolds's report, pressed criminal charges. She was found guilty of felony child abuse. She was sentenced to mandatory psychiatric treatment in an inpatient facility and 5 years of probation. Her parental rights are gone, forever. She tries sometimes. A letter, forwarded from her lawyer to mine, full of remorse and healing. My lawyer just shreds them. The decision to ever see her again, when he's an adult, will be Elias's, and only his. Right now, he has no interest. He's too busy being 10. The hardest part, looking back, was the silence, the sheer, terrifying invisibility of it all. Natalie was the perfect neighbor, the perfect churchgoer, the perfect PTA mom. Everyone who testified for her believed she was that person. She had built a fortress of lies, and the only person who knew the truth was a terrified 8-year-old who had been convinced no one would ever believe him. And he was right. They wouldn't have. Without that camera, without that one desperate paranoid act, I would have been the absent, vindictive father. She would have been the grieving, loving mother. And Elias? God, he'd still be in that house. I learned to see the signs I'd missed, the way he'd drop things, the accidents, the way he'd never, ever talk back. It wasn't being good. It was survival. It was a terror so deep it had become his personality. I see those signs now, everywhere. I've become that parent. The one who watches other people's kids at the park. The one who listens too closely to a parent yelling at their child in the grocery store. A few months ago, at a soccer game, I saw a father grab his son by the arm, hard, and yank him, hissing something in his ear. The boy flinched, the same flinch, the one that started it all. I walked over. "Hey," I said, my voice calm. "Everything okay here?" The father wheeled on me. "Mind your own business, buddy." "I am," I said, not backing down. "My business is making sure that kid is safe. You want to talk to me? Or you want to talk to the child welfare officer I have on my speed dial?" He let go of his son. He saw something in my eyes. Something that told him I wasn't bluffing. He walked away. I might have been wrong. It might have just been a dad having a bad day. But I'll never take that chance again. I will never be the man who just keeps walking. I will never be the man I was 2 years ago. I volunteer now. I speak at a support group for fathers, dads who have gotten out of abusive situations, dads fighting for custody. I tell my story. I tell them to trust their gut, to look for the signs, to listen to what their kids aren't saying. Last week, a man came up to me after. "Your story," he said, his hands shaking. "The camera, the way your son flinched, my ex, my son, he does that." Trust your gut, I told him. I am, he said, his face hardening. I'm calling my lawyer tonight. Knowing my story, my pain, could save another kid. It gives the horror a purpose. This afternoon, I was watching Elias at his soccer game. It was the last game of the season, and they were down by 1. Elias got the ball. He's all legs, a little uncoordinated, but he's fast. He tore down the sideline, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated concentration. He kicked. The ball sailed in a high, clumsy arc and went in. The other kids piled on top of him, a screaming, joyful mob of 10-year-olds. I was on my feet, yelling my fool head off, tears streaming down my face. Claire was hugging me. Kieran was screaming, "That's my nephew!" Elias ran over to the sideline, his face bright red, sweaty, and split by the biggest, happiest grin I'd ever seen. "Dad, did you see it? Did you see?" I pulled him into a hug, not caring that he was covered in sweat and dirt. "I saw it, champ. I saw it. That was amazing." He hugged me hard. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, buddy. More than anything." I held him, my son, this incredible, resilient, happy boy. The boy who had survived hell. The boy who was laughing and playing and scoring goals. I looked at him, truly looked at him. The shadows are gone from his eyes. The fear is gone. In its place is just joy. The fight was worth it. The lost job, the lost money, the sleepless nights, the terror. Every second of it was worth it for this one moment, for this smile. I let him go, and he ran back to his team. I watched him, my heart so full I thought it might burst. The road wasn't easy, but we were here. We were safe. We were finally just a dad and his son, watching a soccer game on a Saturday. And I reaffirmed the promise I'd made to him and to myself. I will always be here. I will always protect him. I will never, ever be blind again. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.